We're talking about developing power. We're talking about what it takes to develop the power of your mind. But I'll tell you this, there are things that stand in the way of us being able to fully develop that power. And these are called invisible structures. So invisible structures are mental and emotional structures that keep us focused on things outside of ourselves. Anyone have problems staying focused on things outside of ourselves? I know I do. And when we shed these structures, or at least recognize and realize them, we gain power. But how? How do we recognize them? First, identify them. There are three. The first, what I call paradigms. Paradigms are the broadest of the structures, and they deal with beliefs. They're pendulums. They're a little bit more specific, and they deal with our emotions. Then there are programs, and they're the most granular. They deal with our behaviors. Paradigms are basically cognitive frameworks of mutually held beliefs shared by a culture or a group of people. These are the invisible lines, the invisible box that we stay inside and never question. The line that we're afraid to cross, but sometimes don't even recognize that we're scared of. A lot of times these come up into our lives as should or should not, right? So for instance, what are some examples of should or should not? You should go to college. You should get married by 35. You should have a baby. You should buy a house. You shouldn't smoke. You shouldn't move from your hometown. Anyone recognize these in our lives? Things we should and shouldn't do. A lot of times we don't question these things. And the crazy thing about paradigms is that they're so thin sometimes. The line is so thin that we just don't even realize that they're happening. There's one paradigm. It's called the Universal Human Paradigm, the UHP. It's called a master paradigm. And this is the subtlest of subtexts in our lives that slips right in there and ingrains itself in every human's belief system. And the Universal Human Paradigm says this. It says that there's a way things should be. And when things are that way, everything's okay. All is right with the world. But when things aren't that way, there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with them out there. There's something wrong with it, the situation that we're in. And of course, this belief system leads to a lot of suffering. So for instance, my grandmother shouldn't have died. I shouldn't have gotten cancer. I shouldn't have gotten a divorce. I should have been happier by 40. These are things that we believe that as part of the universal human paradigm, we believe must be true because there's a way things should be. And by playing into this game, it confines us to a very narrow view of the world where we only survive if things work out as they should. And so we're constantly in survival mode because things have to work out. And the UHP traps us in the known, and it denies us the impossible. When there's a way that things must happen, we can't generate new possibilities because we're stuck. And we end up running our lives against an algorithm of should or should not. But according to who? Should according to who? Who said that? Who said things should work out the way you think they should work out? You look at a war, for instance. One side clearly thinks it should end one way. The other side clearly thinks it should end the other way. Who's to say who's right? No one really likes to hear that because we all have a very deeply embedded emotion around the way things should go. But this is a paradigm even still. So how do you escape this paradigm? I mean, if it's all around us, if it's so ingrained in us, what do you do? 3 declarations. 3 declarations. The first declaration is, what's possible is what I say is possible. What's possible is what I say is possible. The second, I am the stand that I take. How many of us take a stand for ourselves? We have so many polarizing stances and stands for others or other organizations and other people, and we don't take a stand for ourselves. And this goes back to my word is law. If you don't take a stand for yourself, you can't create a new possibility because you fall over at the slightest chance of challenge or hurt or pain or fear. You just flop over and give into it. I am the stand I take. When you take a stand, that is who you are being. And it's the same thing as coming into alignment. When who you're being on the outside and who you're being on the inside connects, that creates possibility. You are the stand you take. Someone could say, I'm not racist, I just don't want black people in here. Well, if you don't want black people in here, then you are the stand you take. It's the same thing. See what I'm saying? The third declaration that you make is there's no such thing as should or shouldn't. And this one hurts. It hurts because there are a lot of things that you don't feel should happen to you or you feel shouldn't have happened to you, and they have anyway. And you have to be okay with the fact that there's no way that situation was supposed to turn out for any situation. And once you internalize that and you really start to accept that, it doesn't always make loss or hardship easier, but it allows you to move more freely without constantly being stuck in the loop of how things should be. And that's the first invisible structure. That's the belief level. Those are paradigms.